Hello, we're doing checkpoint 3.7 from section 3.2. They want us to sketch the graph of f of x is equal to x squared minus 4, and then they ask what interval is the graph f prime of x above the x-axis. All right, so we got our grid over here. X squared is a parabola that would be going in above or right at the origin, but then we're going to drop down 4 units. So let's take this down 4 units, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when x is equal to 1, we have 1 squared, which is going to be 1. And then actually I was more concerned about when 0. When y is equal to 0, we have x squared is equal to 4, and so that's going to give us a positive and negative 2. So I just wanted to draw the intercepts, and this is how the graph of our f of x should look like. Now they want us to, from the graph, figure out which interval is the graph above the x-axis, the graph of the derivative. So remember that f prime of x is the slope of the graph, and f prime of x is above the x-axis. I'll just say bigger than 0 when the graph of the original function f of x is, well, the graph has to be from left to right, has to be going in a positive direction, is increasing. So we can figure out where it's increasing and then be able to draw the graph that way. We'll see that over here we're going to be at a slope of 0, and so the slope of 0, that means f of x should equal to 0 at that point. So that's at this point your derivative is 0. Now from here it'll have a positive slope, and in the beginning, you know, from 0 it's going to go positive, but it's going to go really slow. So we're going to be going somewhere like this maybe, and then it gets steeper and steeper after that. So the y value of the derivative should be above the x-axis there. Just as a contrast, on this side you have the slopes of these things being negative. Now as it gets closer and closer to 0, then or it's going to get closer and closer to 0, your slopes are getting closer and closer to 0. They're becoming more and more horizontal. So you would be approaching your derivative and eventually become 0 at this point. But because the graph is decreasing, your f prime would be below the x-axis here. So f prime of x is negative here because it's the graph itself is decreasing, but on the other side f prime of x is positive because the original function is increasing. Okay, so that's it. So we can say f prime of x is bigger than 0, which is saying it's positive, which is saying it's above the x-axis, when x is bigger than 0. So when x is bigger than 0. So we can write it like that, or we can use the parentheses notation 0, comma, infinity. One more note, we probably don't want to include 0 because at 0 it's exactly at 0, the slope is 0, the slope is horizontal at that point, and so it's not technically above the x-axis until you get a little bit past it, so we don't include 0 in this case. Okay, I hope that helps.